If you're the type of truck owner who does a lot of towing with your 2014 through 2016 Silverado and your truck is not currently equipped with a set of tow mirrors, well then chances are you are not getting the full picture of your truck and trailer setup, which can make turns and general navigation when towing a bit troublesome. Now if that is the case, then adding a set of tow mirrors like we have here would be an awesome choice and is going to kick in things like the bright chrome skull caps and features like the smoke turn signals, ambient temperature sensor, and built-in heating element, just to name a few if your truck is already equipped. Now the mirrors will be sold as a pair, and the installation itself is going to get a strong 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter and about an hour or so to complete per side. But if you hang with me for a bit, Joe will walk you through that job later in the video. So if you've been considering adding a tow mirror to your rig, then chances are you've seen a few different options here on the site, and as always, it just boils down to your budget and how much you want to spend. Now, if you're the type of truck owner who only tows like once in a year, but you still want to be able to see the entire length of your truck and trailer, well then maybe going with a slip-on option might be the smarter and definitely the more budget-friendly way to go. On the other hand, if you're towing all the time, it just makes sense to replace those stock mirrors with something better suited for towing, such as the chrome options we're talking about here today. But what do you say we dive a little bit deeper with the chrome options? And on the surface, there are a few things that I personally dig about these mirrors. First and foremost, the biggie, right? They extend or telescope, meaning when you're not towing, you can slide them in like we have here on the table, or when it's time to tow something, simply pull them out and go full on tow rig. Now, as far as exact dimensions are concerned, well, you're looking at 19 inches currently retracted right here. Pull them out and you'll go 22 inches wide off the side of the truck. And by the way, they are also foldable, which is a manual task as well. So if you're parked in a tight spot, want to fold them in, these mirrors will allow for that. Now the actual mirrors themselves, they are power operated just like your factory mirrors. And then you start getting into some of the bells and whistles with these options, right? You got the heating element to help defrost some mirrors on those cold mornings. You have the smoked LED turn signals, which look really nice and will shine nice and bright thanks to modern electronics. But I do really want to point out here, guys, and this is super important, that these extras, if you will, are only going to operate or function if your truck's mirrors are currently equipped with that functionality from the factory. We're talking turn signals, auxiliary lighting, backup lights, ambient temperature sensor, and so on. These are only going to function with those extras, if you will, if your truck is currently equipped. These mirrors are not going to add that functionality to your truck unless you do a bunch, and I mean a bunch, of custom wiring. So just keep that in mind. It's very important to point out, I don't want you guys to be disappointed when you go to install these things on your base Silverado and wonder, hey, where's my added turn signals? Where's my added lighting? That's not going to be the case with these options. But one thing you are getting with these mirrors, as you can see, are the very slick chrome skull caps or caps for those Silverado owners who want to keep things consistent on their chrome package truck. However, if you don't like the chrome, you're not a big fan, well, you can also find an identical set of mirrors to these with a black cap instead. It might even save you a couple bucks at the end of the day. Now, despite all the bells and whistles and all that good stuff, you are getting both the passenger and driver side mirror, very important to point out. But now we want to get into the install as promised earlier, and there's really no permanent modification, no drilling needed to get the physical mirrors into place. However, you will need to remove those door panels, and again, there might be a little bit of wiring depending on what you are currently hooking up. But Joe's gonna break it all down right now for you with our detailed install and tool breakdown. Check it out.
Tools used for this install are a small impact or ratchet, 10mm socket, 7mm socket, a small extension, two 10mm wrenches, an interior trim panel tool, and a small flathead screwdriver. So for the first step of this install, you're actually gonna have to remove your door panel to gain access to the hardware that mounts the mirror to the side of the truck. Now, before we get into that, I just wanna reiterate the fact that the electronic features of these mirrors that we're gonna install today are only going to function if your truck originally came with those features equipped to the mirrors already. Now, if they are equipped with those features, then this is gonna be a completely plug and play install. But with that being said, let's get started. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a small flathead screwdriver to remove this little cover piece that's inside the door pull. And I'll just very carefully pry on the plastic, not to damage it. And I'll pull that right out. And that reveals these two screws here in the door panel that I'm gonna have to pull off in order to get this off. Now I'll just use my 7mm socket to remove those 2 screws. So now I'm going to use my plastic trim tool to remove this cover panel. That's going to reveal a couple more screws that I need to remove. So really deep here, there is a 7mm screw that's going to be very hard to see, so I'm just going to take a 7mm socket and pull that out. Next, there's a little cover panel here on the door handle itself. I'm just going to pop that off with my plastic trim tool to reveal another 7mm screw. With the cover off, I can just pull the 7mm screw out and move on to the next one. Next, I need to remove the 2 7mm screws that are down here at the bottom of the door panel. So this upper trim piece here is actually stopping me from pulling the door panel out, so I'm just going to pop this off. And then I can remove my door panel. So now that I have the door panel popped off, you can see there's a large plug that holds the entire thing still on. So I'm just going to go ahead and disconnect the large plug. And that just comes right out. So now that you have your door panel and your trim removed from the door, you have full access to the 3 nuts and the electrical connection for your side view mirror. So I'm going to use a 10mm socket to remove these 3 nuts, unplug the connector, and pull the mirror out. So our new mirror is actually equipped with 4 mounting studs on the back of it, and our truck only has 3 mounting holes. So in order to make this physically fit on the truck, it's very simple. I'm actually going to just remove one of these studs, and it's a very simple process. I'm just going to show you how to do that real quick before we throw this on. So like I said before, there are 4 studs on the back of this mirror, and one of them needs to come off for our application because our truck only has 3 mounting holes. Now you can either use a 4mm socket and put it on the end of the stud here to remove it, but if you don't have a 4mm socket, as that's not a readily or easily available socket size, what you can do is take 2 M6x1 nuts and screw them onto the thread. And then once you've done that, you can take 2 wrenches and lock them together and create a jam nut. Once you have them locked together, you should be able to unscrew the stud, no problem. Once you've broken it loose, you can just remove it. So now I'm ready to install my mirror into place, and what I'm going to do is basically just feed the wire harness through the hole that's already in the door and line up my bolt holes with the flange. Once you've got the wire harness pulled through into the inside of the truck, you can go ahead and get your hardware started and screw that down onto the back. Now I'll just take my 10mm socket again and tighten up the hardware. So one very important thing to note when installing these mirrors onto your truck is that some of the added electronic features such as the ambient air temperature sensor, the heated feature, or the turn signal are only going to function if your original mirrors from your truck were equipped to do so. However, if you do want to add in the optional backup lights or turn signal, they do provide you with a wire harness that will require you to tap into the power and ground sources for those signals. If your vehicle does come equipped with all of these features from the factory, then this is going to be a 100% plug and play install. However, since our vehicle is only equipped with turn signals, we're going to continue on as if this was just a plug and play install, just so we can show you guys how these things are installed onto the truck. So now that the mirror is securely mounted up to the truck, I can go ahead and make my electrical connection here, and then I can reinstall my door panel and trim. I'm going to start by reinstalling this upper trim piece that goes around the window frame. Next, I can plug in my electrical connection from my door panel and then reattach the door release cable. Now I can just go ahead and reinstall my 7mm screws. Next, I'm going to reinstall the very hard to reach screw, the 7mm screw that's deep into the door panel here, and I'll just use a little extension to get to that. Don't forget to reinstall your plastic cover that you removed originally. Finally, you can reinstall your trim piece here on the side of the door. And that's going to wrap up this review and install of the powered heated towing mirrors with ambient temp sensor and smoked LED turn signals in chrome fitting your 2014 to 2016 Silverado. Thanks for watching, and for all things Silverado, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.